question. So people are working, people are spending. So are you saying that it's indirectly the government's injection of finance into the economy during the lockdowns and the COVID that is the reason why we're in this recession? Like, it's not the people's fault, it's the government's fault?
Fault is a strong word to use.
Okay, so that is on my Instagram page for people who want to go and see that. So I'm not going to put it on a podcast, like I said, but he's basically saying that he feels, his opinion, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, that he feels like Black people and minorities are systematically denied access to wealth. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a very valid point, and we've committed as an organization to support Black businesses to the tune of over $5 million over the course of the next 5 years, and so we've actually allocated those funds to be able to support specifically BIPOC-owned businesses over the course of the next 5 years, starting back in 2020.
So it's $1 million a year for collective or individuals? Like, are you choosing one out of there? Because that $1 million doesn't sound like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so you're right. I mean, $1 million is not necessarily a lot, but
I really think the way to hedge against all of this is to grow Black businesses, and not just Black community centers, but businesses that are going to be profitable businesses. And that's how you inject money into our Black economy. Intro music. Hey.
Yeah, I like it.
Powered by Riverside.
Gotta shout out Riverside, you know. Welcome to the Trent Out Loud podcast. I am your host, Trent Out Loud. I have a very, very, I like sound effects, Wayne, okay? I have a very special guest with me today. His name is Wayne Griffith. He is the Vice President of Commercial Finance Services, Business and Professional Services at RBC. So, Wayne, thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow. Looking forward to it.
All right. So Wayne and I have been like back and forth for like weeks and weeks and weeks trying to schedule this. I just learned just before we started recording, Wayne is an avid tennis player, and he is going for the finals in the tennis doubles, and there's also a singles championship, club championship. So shout out to you. And he's feeling a little bit under the weather, so we don't have a lot of time with him today. I'm going to ask you a few questions so that you can get some rest and hopefully win that championship. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So the podcast normally is about life, love, and legacy, but I just feel like the info that you have in your brain is so valuable that I just want to get right into hopefully all the knowledge and helping other people. So maybe we'll have you on another time talking about your life, love, and legacy, how you got into the banking world and etc. But I really want to help some people out there that don't have access to somebody like you to answer and ask you some financial questions. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So first and foremost, what is your thoughts on the state of the economy? Are we in a recession? Are we heading into a recession? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the question of the day. With everything that's happened this year, we've seen the Bank of Canada has been aggressively increasing interest rates. They have another meeting next week where they're scheduled to increase rates, and that's all to curb inflation. I think everyone has seen an increase in prices, whether it's at the gas pump or in the grocery store. So the economy, has been overheating. And, if I can start with what has caused that, if we look over the last couple of years, obviously getting into COVID and trying to keep people afloat during that very challenging period, a lot of money was injected into the economy. The government introduced a number of programs, and rightfully so, to support not only individuals through programs like the CEBA, but also to support businesses. And so there was a lot of money that was circulating in the system, and people, what do when they have money? They spend.
Yes.
And spending is actually what drives our economy, consumer spending.
Yeah.
And so over the last couple of years, a lot of people have been, taking that extra cash and spending. And so now we're in this period where we're really seeing inflation like we haven't seen in almost 20 years. And the Bank of Canada has increased rates by 3.5% so far, which is 350 basis points, which is historically fast in terms of how quickly that's happened. And it's led to the position that we're in right now, where we're faced with some challenges, right? And the challenges that we're facing right now is, as I mentioned, prices are extremely high, and we need to start to cool things down. And so we do believe that we're heading for a recession as a result, and the interest rate increases that we have seen have been a key driver of that. But the good news is we feel that it's going to be a mild recession, which should only last into the mid part of 2023.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you. How severe of a recession do you think it is? So when you say a mild recession and into mid 2023, what markers do you guys use to project that it will only be a recession for 6 months? Like, how do you not know that it's going to take 2 years or 3 years, or that we could go into something worse?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so when I look at the markers right now, there's a lot of the fundamentals are still strong. And so, you start with the labor market. And so unemployment is still at historically low levels. And in fact, in a lot of businesses, we're actually struggling to find people. And, banking is no different. I mean, I'm in interviews every Friday. We're hiring all the time. And if you look around at other industries, whether it's restaurants or stores, they're all struggling to find people. So, that is definitely one of the markers that we look at. Are people working? And right now, people are working, most definitely. We had historically high housing prices as well over the last few years. And right now, we're starting to see that decline a little bit. So prices right now in the GTA are down about 10%, which is significant in a short period of time. We predict that the prices are going to come down by another 5%. But What's the good thing about Canada? Canada is fueled by immigration. And so we have 500,000 people that are coming to this country every year. And the majority of those people are coming to the GTA, Vancouver, and Montreal. And I'd say that the GTA is probably the number one region for immigration. We haven't seen that over the past few years because of COVID, but we will be seeing it moving forward. And so that is only going to contribute to, the more people coming in is going to contribute to the stability of the housing market, as well as the labor market. And so, those fundamentals are going to ensure that this recession is not as bad as it could be.
Understand. I have a question. So people are working, people are spending. So are you saying that it's indirectly the government's injection of finance into the economy during the lockdowns and the COVID, the era, let's call it, that is the reason why we're in this recession? Like, it's not the people's fault, it's the government's fault?
Fault is a strong word to use, because I think we were in an unprecedented time where people weren't working, and there were many industries that were completely shut down, and people needed to survive. And so the government needed to step in and help those people. So I myself, being in the banking industry, I was fortunate. I always had a job. I was able to pivot and work from home. There's other industries that were completely shut down. And so there was a need for government support. And the government injected funds at a historical level. I think within that, there are some people that took advantage of the system, and likely some people that are continuing to take advantage of the system. But the objective was to get people out, get the money out the doors, and support. And so, that definitely played a role in keeping the economy afloat, which I think was really important during that time. And now, when people have money, as I said at the beginning, they tend to spend. And so consumer spending drives the economy. And I know we just had Black Friday in the US, and they spent a record $9 billion. So clearly,
really? I didn't hear about that.
Money, and they're still spending.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And so the consumer is what ultimately drives the economy. And so 60% of our economy is driven by consumer spending. And so, when we're looking at those markers, one of the things that I look at is people spending? And
Okay.
because we've been shut down for the last couple of years, people are spending. They're wanting to travel. They're wanting to
Yes.
go out and buy new clothes. They're wanting to
Yeah.
just go out and live again, go to restaurants. And so
Yes.
that's what's been happening over the last year, and that's what's been driving the economy.
Okay.
And I think we're now coming to an end of that cycle where, with interest rates rising, people are now realizing that there's a cost if they're taking on debt to do this spending, and realizing that it's not sustainable to do this for the long term.
Understood. Okay, so we're just like every market, we're equalizing the playing field. Like we went up,
Yeah.
we have to come down, and we have to find a middle ground. Last question about recession, and we can move on. Can you just give me another time that there was a recession, and what the circumstances of that recession were? Just anyone in history.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to the early 80s when we had historically high interest rates, so if you think about a mortgage rate, what it is now, where you're at about 5 or 6%, back in the early 80s, mortgage rates were in the 20% range. And so if you think about that, obviously prices were a lot lower. I think my parents probably paid, just over $100,000 for their first home, and that home today would cost $1 million. It's a significant part of your debt load if you're paying 20% in interest. And so, that's obviously going to lead people to think differently about how they spend. And so the 80s is, one of the significant times where we always point back to, because we had historically high levels, and people are actually worried, could rates go back to that level now? And, if interest rates were to go back to a level of, in the 10 to 20% range, that would be catastrophic for a number of households. If you think about the cost of a home in the GTA, which, the average cost is $1 million. People are taking mortgages, $6, $7, $8, $900,000. If you're paying 10% interest on that, that's $90,000, $100,000 a year. It is not sustainable. So interest rates are always a key driver of the economy. And early 80s is a time when, we had historically high interest rates, and typically when that happens, it leads to recessionary pressures.
So what can we, the public, do to ensure that the Bank of Canada doesn't have to raise interest rates to that 10 or 12 or 15%? Or can we do nothing about it?
I think everyone has to take that personal accountability and responsibility. And I always say, just, start with a budget, a simple budget in terms of what you're making, what you're spending, and, is your balance sheet positive, right? And, simple rule: don't spend more than you make. Yes, there is a need for credit at certain times in your life, but you always want to have a plan in terms of how you're going to reduce that credit on a consistent basis. Whether it's a line of credit, a loan for a car, or a loan for another purchase, another major purchase, you want to make sure that you have a plan. And so I always say it's very important to have a budget for yourself. And at the end of the day, when you're looking at that budget on a regular basis, you can make the decisions that you need to adjust accordingly.
Understand. Okay, this is the first time I actually fully kind of just wrap my head around it. So basically, we're all in this together. So like you said, is it the government's fault? And fault is a hard word. Is it our fault? Is it COVID's fault? Is whatever. Instead of looking at it at whoever's fault it is, we should look at us collectively as a whole. The government has to be more responsible of doing what they're doing and protecting and not just throwing out money, but also us as the population. We have to be smart on the homes that we're buying and not just take out mortgages and loans that we can't afford, and be careful for when interest rates goes up so that a bunch of people are not filing for bankruptcy and running out of their homes, because that's going to cause the bank to continue to raise inflation. So we're all in this together.
Yeah, we are all in this together. And obviously we influence the decisions of our government. We have a right to vote in terms of whether we want a government that's more liberal or more conservative in terms of how they spend. And so it does come down to, getting involved, making sure that you're supporting officials, that you're electing officials that are supportive of your philosophies when it comes to managing money, and then making sure that you just have that personal accountability for how you manage your own household finances. It really does start there. There's great books that are out there where it doesn't really matter how much you make, it's how you spend it. And The Wealthy Barber is one that we all read in finance, and it talks about how a barber
I've read that.
to become a millionaire on not the highest of salary, because of his fiscal responsibility. And we all have that within our own power.
Okay, perfect. All right, so understand that. So we are in a recession, quote unquote. It won't be long, but what could somebody do now to hedge against the downturn that we're in or that's coming?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say again, if you go back to my example of just taking that personal responsibility, you want to make sure you're doing everything you can to reduce your high interest rate debt. So if that means adjusting your savings, allocating more money from your take-home pay to reducing that debt, normally you would start with your credit cards. You'd move to your line of credit, and if you have the opportunity to reduce your mortgage, I think that's going to make a significant difference, because if you lower your overall debt load, your monthly payment responsibilities will also come down. I think that's first and foremost. And if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of debt, like now is just a great time to adjust and to save, right? And to save some money. The good thing about rising interest rates is that if you have money to save, you're getting higher rates of interest than you were last year and 2 years ago. And so right now it's just a period to make that adjustment, make those lifestyle adjustments. Easier said than done, again, because of the period that we just came out of. I mean, I know that I have not been on a plane since before COVID, and regardless of what's happening in the economy, I'm getting on a beach at some point, this winter. But we all have to make personal decisions, and it starts with looking at our own personal balance sheet and seeing where we can make some reductions and adjust our budget accordingly to help with what's coming.
Are there certain sectors that people can invest in that you feel are stronger than others during a downturn?
I mean, in terms of investing, I mean, I have a very simple philosophy when it comes to investing. I mean, for myself, I buy companies that I like, that I know. I'm very conservative, so because I work for the bank, I own a lot of bank stocks. I think it's more about, and it's something that's very personal. I would recommend speaking with a financial planner, and certainly at RBC we have a number that you can speak to, a number of financial planners that you can speak to. I think it's more about the consistency of having a savings plan, and then depending on your investment style, finding the right investments that are good for you.
Okay. Okay, cool. So let's get now into more the business side, the minorities access to finance and side. You and I met at a different book list club. I think that's the name of what's the name of it?
A different book list.
Yeah. I always see it and I'm like, is that really the name? Anyways, a different book list. They carry my book. So we were there and we met. So we both definitely have a passion for our community, minorities. So I want to make sure that I definitely cover that. What are some of the ways that RBC and yourself, what are you and RBC doing to help the minority communities, let's say in Ontario or around your area?
Yeah, so there's a few different areas. We have the Black Entrepreneur Program that we launched a couple of years ago, and that's a program to specifically help Black entrepreneurs who are looking to start their own business. I think what's important about these programs is that we offer support along the way, and a lot of people have fantastic ideas and they don't know how to put it all together. Through our programs, we actually offer assistance in terms of putting together your business plan, letting you know what you need from a bank perspective if you're looking to secure financing, and helping you to build out your business plan. It's really key for any entrepreneur. I know there's lots of great ideas in the community, but they need support when it comes to putting together that plan and understanding how to put together an opening balance sheet, which is something that the bank would want to see. Understanding how to put together a cash flow statement, which is something that is critical to their business. And so our programs actually offer support in terms of putting those plans together, which ultimately will lead to your success. We then have a number of... Sorry,
go ahead. I thought you were done.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. We then have a number of loan programs that we offer, and grants, again, all dependent on the plan, and some great support that we offer specifically for Black businesses.
How does a Black business owner go about getting themselves into this program? Like, I never knew that this program existed.
Yeah, so we partner with an organization called Futurepreneur, And we're actually putting on a series of workshops in the new year in 2023. And I can certainly send you the links that you can share after the podcast. But these workshops help you to, as I've just described, build your business plan, give you a better grasp of your business ideas and how you can make them work and how you can put them all together. And so if you have an idea as a Black business owner and you want to talk with other like-minded individuals and you'd like to get some guidance and input in terms of how you can pull together your plan, then I would highly recommend that you attend these workshops. There's 3 of them. The first one is called Rock My Business Idea. The second one is Rock My Business Plan. And the third one is Rock My Cash Flow. And those are the 3 areas that I just spoke about. And I think those are the 3 areas that are critical if you want to be able to build a successful plan. And in my line of work as VP for the Toronto Downtown Business Professional Service Teams, I work with a lot of business owners. It's one of the things that I love about the job. I mean, just finding out people's passions and how they got into the business that they're in. And then I love seeing how they actually pull it together and make money. And I think that's the missing piece for a lot of entrepreneurs that are just starting out, is actually seeing how they can actually bring it to life with the financial support of a bank or investors, because the biggest challenge is, well, where do I get the money from? These workshops will help you to understand the different channels that you can access to help you to bring your idea to life and ultimately to make it a profitable business. It's one thing to have an idea, and it's another thing to turn that idea into a profitable business. And so these workshops will really help in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not going to ask like particular numbers, but it's great to have workshops, but how many loans are actually coming out of these workshops?
Well, in terms of the actual numbers, the workshop hasn't happened yet, right? So the workshop is happening.
You're working on that.
Yeah. So it's only happening. Okay. The program is put together, but the workshop is happening in January. Mm-hmm. And so, we've committed as an organization to support Black businesses to the tune of over $5 million over the course of the next 5 years. And so we've actually allocated those funds to be able to support specifically BIPOC-owned businesses over the course of the next 5 years, starting back in 2020.
So it's $1 million a year for collective or individuals? Like, are you choosing one out of there? Because that $1 million doesn't sound like a lot.
So you're right. $1 million is not necessarily a lot, but we're focused on the small to medium sized businesses who often would need that, the $20,000, the $50,000 to help them get their business started. And then at the end of the day, it's about building a profitable business. And I think that's what's important, is that we build a profitable and sustainable business. And our programs will really help individuals to get there so that they don't need the support of the bank. We come in really at the beginning to provide the support for businesses that are just getting started.
Yeah. Okay. You're 100% right. And you definitely want a business to be, self-funding. But we also do want to try to inject as much, loans. And, this is actually another question that I'm in a chat group with Black Men in Business brought by the BBPA. And one of the guys, I said, I'm interviewing you. I said, one of the guys asked, like, he sees many loan programs, but he doesn't see a lot of grant programs. Is there a reason for that?
There are grant programs, and the qualifications for the grant programs are sometimes a little bit more challenging, because if we're giving a grant, we're just saying, here, we're going to give you the money and go and run with it. For us to actually do that, we have to understand what that money is going for, and is it aligned to the values of our organization. So, if you're coming to invest in, let's say, a crypto business or start a crypto business, we're not necessarily going to give a grant for that. If you're coming to us to, start a community center for youth in an underserviced community, then, we're willing to listen and to help. So we want to make sure that when we're providing grants, it's aligned with our strategic interests. And we also want to make sure that there's a good plan that's behind it. So it's a little bit more challenging to get a grant versus a loan, but there certainly are grants that are available to a number of different organizations. The example is a different book list. I mean, RBC supported a different book list in sponsoring their logo competition for all the reasons that I just mentioned. They're committed to working with youth within the Black community, and we've partnered with them as they work to build their center across the street. And so we are looking for organizations and businesses that are looking to serve the community, and certainly grants are available for those types of businesses.
Okay, understood. I'm going to play you a clip from this thing that I saw online. This is Dr. Umar Johnson. And he just has a viewpoint. I'm not going to play it on the podcast because I don't have copyright. So I'm going to cut this out. But I just wanted you to hear it. And I want you and I to talk about it after. I'm not saying I agree with him, but I just want to take your vantage point from somebody who's in business financing. Just listen to this, okay?
Ask you a question.
Okay, so that is on my Instagram page for people who want to go and see that. So I'm not going to put it on a podcast, like I said, but he's basically saying that he feels, his opinion, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, that he feels like Black people and minorities are systematically denied access to wealth. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a very valid point. And if I look at my own family and my dad, who was an entrepreneur, so my family came over from Barbados. My dad was working for a large company. At one point, he decided that he wanted to start his own business. And so he left his stable job and he started his business importing fruits from the Caribbean. And, was trying to build that business. And he was trying to build that business for myself and for my sister. And I remember, like, way back when, him trying to get a bank loan to support that business, and it just wasn't something that was available to him. And so I think historically that definitely has been the case. I mean, the system has been built against us for sure, but I think in the last couple of years things have really changed. And if we look back over time, there's never been a better time to be a Black entrepreneur because of all the programs that are out there and available. So, my advice to people today would be, well, let's start with where we are now. We all know the history. We know that historically the system has been built against us, like there's no doubt about it, but things are slowly changing and there's opportunities that are in front of us now. And, I think what we need to do is just make sure that everyone is aware of those opportunities and how they can best take advantage of them. And so, I agree with what he has said. That definitely has been historically the case. I've experienced it myself in my own family. But that being said, I think we are making progress, after obviously the events of 2020, and in particular, the focus that all of the financial institutions have placed on supporting BIPOC businesses. And so there is an opportunity now. There's still a lot of work to do, but I would advise everyone, let's start with where we are today and what we can do to move forward, because there are a ton of opportunities that are out there right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you that it's a good opportunity. And I was interviewing somebody the other day, and they were like, let's stop focusing on the problem and stop blaming systemic racism, and let's even stop talking about that and have more positive conversations. And I get all that, but just like you, my parents came here from Jamaica, and it's hard to not, you don't have a house if you come here as an immigrant, you don't have a house to give up as collateral for your loan, etc. But I do find the banks could or should find some sort of way, because it's easy to get a car loan, it's easy to get in debt, it's easy to get a student loan, it's easy to get a mortgage. But when it comes for a business loan, it's almost like, I don't know, for me, when I was starting out, I didn't get any business loan. So it took me 3 or 4 times longer than a counterpart of mine that maybe had a wealthy family or had access to finance for me to grow to 10 stores. It took me 15 years. Maybe a counterpart that his parents were born here or have equity, I could have grown my business to 10 stores in maybe, 2 or 3 years. So, but having said that, I also do think, like what you mentioned earlier, that you can't just come to the bank and say, hey, I'm a Black man, help me out. You need your cash flow charts. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I see it both ways, right? You need your business plan. It needs to be sound. It needs to be, you can't just support just because you're Black or a minority or BIPOC. We have to do the work. But I also do feel, and I do know, because I talk and meet with them all day, there's a lot of great entrepreneurs with a lot of great ideas that have all of these things, and they go to the banks and the banks still deny them. So I just feel that we need to work together to change that.
100%. And, like I can tell you from the perspective of RBC, like I've seen a difference in the last couple of years, whether it's our own internal hiring and promotions. We really are starting at the grassroots, so making sure that we're getting into schools, letting people know that a career for you is available in banking if that's what you're looking for. But also importantly, working with a number of Black businesses and entrepreneurs. In developing our programs, we spoke to a number of entrepreneurs, and we got the feedback in terms of how things have been and how challenging and how difficult it's been. And I go back to the story of my dad, where like I remember, like before he had to step into the bank, it wasn't a friendly place that he was stepping into. It was a place where he was nervous before. I remember the dinner conversations with my mom, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be, okay, like I'm going to the bank and the bank is going to help me. And 20, 30 years ago, it was not like that. Now it's changing, and now you have people like myself that have risen to senior positions within the organization and are pushing.
Congratulations, by the way,
to do more. Thank you. I still have a long way to go, but I'm trying my best to continue to move in the right direction, and also make sure that I'm bringing along the next generation as well. And I have a lot of faith in where we can go in the near future.
Okay. Well, like I said, congratulations on all the work that you've done. Everything you're doing with a different book list is amazing. And I'm excited to hear about these programs that you guys are doing in 2023. I want to hear those loans go up to the 20, 30 mil and not just stay at the 5 mil. And some of these grants kind of go outside of just only helping the community. Like we could, give grants to people who are, I understand the community aspect of it. But you could, if the old saying, right? You give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime, right? So I really think the way to hedge against all of this is to grow Black businesses, and not just Black community centers, but businesses that are going to be profitable businesses. And that's how you inject money into our Black economy. So I love what you guys are doing, and any help that you need in 2023, any of these programs, if you need any speakers or just anybody who's coming out there to showing a positive influence on the community, I'm more than happy to fly down and join you on some of those.
Absolutely. And I'll definitely share with you the details of the program and our commitment, just so we have the specific numbers, and update as well in terms of the types of businesses that we've helped. And we've helped many different types of businesses so far. I think that there's an opportunity to do more, and part of it is just more awareness about the programs. And so it starts with a phone call, it starts with a curious mind, it starts with a great idea.
For sure.
And so if you have that, then make sure that you're reaching out, whether it's to me or through you, and just getting that idea in front of the right person. That's often what it takes.
Yeah. And it takes people like you that are busy and playing tennis matches and sick, and you're coming on on here and taking the time to talk to my audience. And I have a young demographic of people. Look, me, I knew you for a couple of months, and I didn't even know the RBC has these programs. So things like this, brothers getting together, amplifying in the community, letting people know that this program and workshops and loans and grants out there is taking a step. So thank you very much for taking the time. I hope you feel better, and I hope you win your tennis match.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I just want to say, like, it is really important to me, because when I was coming up in banking, there was not a lot of people that looked like me, and I often felt very isolated and like I had no one to go to. And I know there's a lot of people that feel that way today, and they're now have more of an entrepreneurial mindset, which is great. And they need that support. They need to see faces that look like them. And so I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and just give me the opportunity to come and, share a little bit of, my perspective today. And I'd love to come back and share more about my career story, because, as much as I'm a banker, like on the personal side, I think I have a lot more to add in terms of, how you can, build your brand, how you can present yourself, how you can just become successful, because there's the technical skills that you need from a business perspective, but more and more today, it's about like the networking and those soft skills that are actually what's going to get you ahead. And you got to work on both if you're going to be successful in today's world.
Well, do you want to tell us one right now? Like, what is your number one piece of advice for a young BIPOC or old BIPOC community
Yeah.
or somebody who's out there that's looking to grow their business?
Well, I mean, I'd say the most important thing for anyone who's trying to build their brand or to build their business is to be very self-aware and to just know what your strengths and your opportunities are. And if you're going in looking for a loan, or if you're going in looking for a job, what is your personal brand? What is your vision statement? How is that going to connect with the person that you're speaking to? And if you go in with that mindset, and if you've done the proper self-reflection, you're going to be well prepared to answer those types of questions. And when we answer those types of questions, it forces us to look within. And when we look within is when we grow. And I think that a lot of people need to, and I've done this work myself. And when I've made the biggest leaps in my career is when I've taken some time to really step back and say, hey, what can I do better? Like, what am I really good at? And what are my passions? And going from there. Some people just go and they don't really think about why they're doing what they're doing. They want to start a business because, well, my friend is starting a business, so that's what I need to do. You have to connect with your passion, and to connect with your passion, you have to connect with yourself. And if you can do that and build up your brand, you're going to be successful no matter what you do. So my number one career advice is always do that self-reflection, know your strengths, know your opportunities, and know what your personal brand is.
That is such a really great point, and I'm so happy that I'm upset that I didn't ask you that question, but thank you for reminding me to ask you that question. There's a lot of people, especially young people, they see stuff on Instagram and they want to do this and they want to do that and they want to follow somebody else, but they're not passionate about that. Like you helping out Aita, who's the owner of a different book list, she is 100,000% committed to books. It's what she knows, eats, sleeps, and breathes. So now when you're looking and you're looking at her balance sheet, you're looking at all of this stuff, you might look at 10 people that are coming to you for a loan for a bookstore, but you're going to pick Aita over somebody else because she eats, sleeps, and breathes books. Like that's what she does.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, we're in a people business. And so when I see that passion, and it's got to be authentic, like it's got to come from someone's authentic self. But when I see that passion, then I want to help that individual, right? And Aita is the perfect example. Aita and Abina at a different book list. I've been working with them for a number of years. I know how passionate they are about their business, and it makes you want to help them. And we stretch the limits to help them because we believe in them as individuals.
Yeah. People don't realize business is about stories, man.
Yep.
It's all about stories, right? I'm working with a girl who does my hair, and I might invest in her company and her brand. And then she's like, well, why do you want to invest with me? And I'm like, your mom has been working and doing braids in the basement of her house for 30 years. You've been doing it for 18 years. That is way more of a story and a passion and something that I want to be involved in than somebody who maybe has better numbers or maybe somebody that already has a salon. Yep. Like that's the type of people you want to work with. So very, very, very good piece of advice to give to a lot of these young entrepreneurs out there that just want to be in entrepreneurship just because they think it's gonna, I want to say that I'm my own boss. Trust me, that's one of the first things I regretted very quickly. You're your own boss. That means that you're relying on you. There's nobody to, there's no boss to go and say I quit and go somewhere else. So it's not all as cracked up to be. But all right, man. I would definitely love to have you back on.
Yeah, and sorry it took us so long to get this together, but it's actually like the worst time for me just because it's like year-end, the start of the new year.
Yeah, for sure.
And then obviously I wasn't feeling well, but I'm glad that we were able to get this in, and let's stay connected. I'll let you know once I have a chance to read your book. I'm just finishing up the one that I'm reading right now, so that one is sitting on my shelf ready to go. And
appreciate it.
Before the holidays, have a great one. I actually went to Suit Supply and I picked up that white turtleneck.
Are you serious?
I don't know if it's the same one, but it inspired me to get back out to Suit Supply.
Oh yeah, I should have worn that. I should have worn that on the on the show.
I was going to wear it. It's a little bit too hot. I was going to wear the turtleneck tonight, but I did pick it up. So thanks for the fashion tips as well.
No problem. I'm always here to help you out, brother.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, man. I'm going to put on the exit music. Hey, thank you very, very much, man.
Awesome. A lot of fun.